Right, good afternoon, councillors, staff and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our May Ordinary Council meeting. Please be advised that the council meeting is being recorded and live streamed. By speaking at the meeting, you agree to being recorded and live streamed. Please ensure that if and when you speak, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Cabonne Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. The recording of this meeting will be made publicly available on Council's website. I'll call the first item, which is application for leave of absence. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oldham, seconded by Councillor Rawson. We're all in attendance, so we have no applications for leave, so I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Jones. I have to declare item 20 in the business papers, and I will be leaving the room whilst that's being discussed. Does anybody else have anything to declare? Councillor Batten.
I'm declaring an interest in item 15, the Village Enhancement Fund, the application from Molong Advancement Group and the RSL sub-branch.
Thank you.
Chair of the Molong Advancement Group.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to declare? Well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 3 is declaration for political donations. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oldham, seconded by Councillor Rawson. Does anybody have anything to declare? None declare. Thank you, everybody. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 4 is the mayoral minute. I have tabled a report as to my movements for the month. Councillor Rawson, I know, has tabled one as well. Does anybody else have any? Councillor Jones has tabled one. Councillor Weaver.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I've tabled one, but I'd just like to make note of the Eugowra mural unveiling and how successful it was on such a terrible day. I mean, it poured raining, but everyone was in good spirits and it was really good. The other thing was I attended the Age of Fishers dinner last Wednesday night, and I have to say that was very well received, and there's about 60 guests there, and very informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I'll grab you in a second.
Okay.
Just while we're on that, I'd just like to make mention, and everybody's aware that last week we co-hosted with Orange and Blaney the Local Government New South Wales Tourism Conference in Orange initially, and they had breakout sessions in both Blaney and Cabonne and over to Manildra in particular. Can I pass on from council a big thank you to the community and economy team. The comments that I've heard from visiting councillors, mayors, general managers, CEOs, was that it was an incredible conference, and Cabonne had a lot to do with that. Our staff worked tirelessly, and that was evident at the reception dinner on the Wednesday night. The fireworks display, incredible. Everybody was talking about the fireworks display. Didn't matter how cold it was, but the fireworks display was fantastic. But the staff that did a lot of work, not just our indoor staff, but the outdoor staff. So please pass on to them, councils, thank you, and for a job well done. So thank you all. I think a round of applause.
Just to follow up to that, firstly I'd like to thank Council for nominating me to go to that. I really appreciate it, but I wanted to say that I was very proud to be a Cabonne councillor. It was really good, and I think that the Mayor, the General Manager represented us beautifully. And yeah, it was very impressive, but particularly for Rebecca and Laura, who put so much effort into it. And the dinner was spectacular. But so I'd like to just second what you were saying.
Thank you.
Well, everybody's said everything wonderful already, but I concur with everything that was done. It was amazing achievement, I think, by our Cabonne team, and really showcased us really well. And so definitely congratulations to all of them. It was a very informative event. One of the interesting things was that so many other councils were coming up and saying, oh gosh, we're going to have to start talking to our neighbours and see if we can't get together like you, Orange and Blaney, have done. So the showcase of what's been achieved was very well received, with a lot of people thinking, we've got to try and do this too. So that was, I think that was a wonderful thing to find out from that.
Thank you, well said. Anything else for the Mayor or Minute? No? All right, well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 5 is Committee of the Whole section of the meeting. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by, was that Councillor Jones? Thank you. Does anybody wish to call any items into Committee of the Whole? Councillor Rawson. Item 11, thank you. Anything else? Nothing further? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 6 is grouping of reports, which we're grouping 7 through to 10 inclusive. So can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Poole. Yep, thank you. And seconded by Councillor Batten. Everybody fine with grouping 7 to 10? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So item 11 is in Committee of the Whole. Item 12 is Audit and Risk Improvement Committee appointment of independent members. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Rawson, second by Councillor O'Ryan. Can I just make comment there, if I may, to section, well, in the recommendations, section 4, appointment of the Mayor and one alternate councillor as a voting member of the ARIC for the remaining term of council. So in the past, the alternate has been the Deputy Mayor. So I just would like to point that out in this case. I think because this is a new committee, the wording of it says one alternate councillor, but I would like to suggest that it be the Deputy Mayor as the alternate, as per previous ARIC committees. Any thoughts on that at all? All right. As long as everybody's happy. Or any other discussion on any of this at all? Oh, I've got a move in a second? Oh, yes, I did. Yes, Councillor Poole was, yeah. Any other discussion on? Everybody's happy? Yep. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 13 is the quarterly budget review. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Jones. Any discussion on that at all? All good? All right. That's what we'd like to hear. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 14 is a donation request by the Canoundra Gun Club for $170 towards purchase of a defibrillator. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Weaver, seconded by Councillor Rawson. Yes? Yep. I don't think $170 is going to break the budget. Good cause? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 15 is the Village Enhancement Fund, and Councillor Batten declared an interest and is leaving the room. As he leaves the room, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Nash. Any discussion on that at all? Pretty straightforward. All right, everybody's happy. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Councillor Batten, that was moved unanimously in record time as per the recommendation. Item 16 is the Bank Street Molong Master Plan petition received by council. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Ryan. Councillor Batten. Item 16.
Mr Mayor, this indeed, thank you for the invitation. I'm actually proposing an amendment to this motion, which I've actually handed to the staff so people can see what I'm saying. My amendment is that council does not accept the petition objecting to the planting of the trees in Bank Street, accepts only the correspondence with an address and signatory identified, and seeks a report at a future meeting on the matter.
All right, thank you. So, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Oldham has seconded the amendment. Councillor Batten, you wish to speak to your amendment?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will take the invitation to speak. There are fundamental problems with council receiving this petition. Over the past 2 years, council have fielded many claims about the project, including that parking is changing to parallel parking, that it's changing to nose in, that the proposal includes a raised median strip between the trees and cars won't be able to manoeuvre between them, and the street's too narrow. The most recent one that I've got, two of them actually. One is that it's going to be between the highway and Gidley Street, it's going to be turned into a mall. And the second one is that drivers will crash into the trees when parking. I mean, as people driving to our geriatric years, we're more likely to back into trees that are there like they are at the moment than we are to drive into them in front of us. If council accepts the petition, then in my view, it's endorsing fiction over fact. The banner line of the petition, it simply states, due to Bank Street is much narrower than most main streets, we the undersigned are opposed to having trees down the middle, as we believe that would be a hazard to parking for many people and will block the street when delivery trucks are unloading. Simply believing something doesn't mean it's fact. In addition, there's no evidence of the petitioners having engaged anyone skilled in urban design to substantiate their claims. When developing the concept plan for activation of Molong Town Centre, council undertook a multi-stage community consultation and engaged a specialist in urban design. The majority of people enthusiastically embraced the concept, and the urban design specialist recommended the concept design that council submitted successfully to the New South Wales and Australian governments for funding. Had the specialist not recommended the concept design, then the previous council would not have approved the course of action, written rejected it. Secondly, as the policy does not contain addresses or signatories to the petition, and it's not compliant with the council's petition policy. It is the responsibility of the author of any petition to ensure that the petition complies with the requirements of the level of government, be that local, state or federal, to which they're submitting a petition. In this case, very clearly, the author did not do that. Similarly, some of the correspondence is unsigned and contains no addresses to legitimise the correspondence. Therefore, I propose that council does not accept the petition objecting to planting of the trees, accepts only the correspondence with an address and signatory identified, and seeks a report at a future meeting on the matter. And I ask that for the support of my fellow councillors.
Thanks, Councillor Batten. Does anybody wish to speak against the amendment? No. Councillor Oldham, do you wish to speak for the amendment? Oh, hang on a minute. Hang on, sorry. Did you want to speak against that, Councillor Paul?
No.
No. Yep.
I concur with what Councillor Batten has said.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Paul.
If we disregard the petition, I'm just looking at the bottom here, the council workshop detailing the design approach has been arranged for June 2022. This will include elements raised in the petition itself.
Yeah, well, that would negate, if we reject the petition, that would negate that sentence about matters raised in the petition. I think matters raised in some of the reports that we're accepting would be addressed, but not the petition as such.
Through you, Mr Mayor. In that note, those issues, I think the author of the report was saying that by definition, by doing a detailed design, it will address the issues that have been raised in that it's too narrow, that people will run into things. That detailed design process will still address those issues, whether there was a petition or not. That's what that detailed design process fleshes out. Does that answer your question?
All right, if no one wishes to speak against that, I need to now put that amendment. So I'll put the amendment. All those in favour, do you want to read the amendment out again? All right, the amendment is that Council does not accept the petition objecting to the planting of trees in Bank Street, accepts the only correspondence with an address and signatory identified, and seeks a report at a future meeting on this matter. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? So that matter's carried. So the amendment is up. Now I'll put the amendment becomes the motion. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Item 17 is the 2022 Local Roads Congress. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Rawson, second by Councillor Nash. Any discussion on that at all? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 18 is the Draft Strategic Policy Asset Management Policy. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Rawson. Any discussion on that at all? No? All okay? All right. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 19 is DA 2022/0044, proposed cellar door at lot 101 DP 870687 91 Boree Lane, Lidster. Could I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Batten, seconded by Councillor Poole. It's just we need to record the votes. We need a division on this, so I need to show of hands when we vote. Just a reminder. And any discussion at all? Councillor Rawson.
Just a question, really. I wasn't certain when I was looking through it about the access into lot 103, the neighbour. Does it use the exact same pathway, the same entryway, and so it would be shared for a certain distance, and then?
Through Mr Chair, yes, that is correct. It's an existing right-of-way. The properties both have access over that corridor. That will continue. The property to the west extends beyond the driveway to the cellar door. So it's there's uninterrupted right-of-way access to the adjacent small holding.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion on that? All happy? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Now we move to item 20, where I've declared an interest, so I will leave the room.
Thank you, councillors. I'll call item 20, DA 2022/0161, the Animal Breeding and Boarding Establishment, Greyhound Facility, Lot 9, DP 846719, 1722 Packham Drive, Marlong. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Oldham. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this motion? No further. Sorry.
Just a comment. I certainly have some sympathy for the people that against the breeding and boarding establishment, living in a large rural area and farming, etc., that I'm well aware of. But unfortunately, luckily we have a highly skilled executive team here that know all the regulations, and sympathy doesn't allow to vote against it, unfortunately. But I certainly do have some sympathy for the neighbours.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Any further comments? Councillor Nash?
I think this did work out okay. It's been well and truly looked at, and it's only going to be a place that's going to be 30 cups, and I don't think it's going to really be detrimental too much to the neighbours. Hopefully.
Thank you. There's no further comment. As Councillor Nash said, this has been a work in progress for some time, and I know the proponents have done a lot of work behind the scenes to get to this point. So I'll put that all, and I'll ask for a show of hands, please. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Against? Thank you.
Thank you. Item 21 is the modification to DA 2022/0084 for an 8-lot subdivision of Lot 101 DP 1282584 Cemetery Road, Marlong. I'll need a mover and a seconder initially. Mover Councillor Rawson, seconded by Councillor Nash. Now I have information that this matter is to be deferred to a later meeting. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. Item 22 is questions for the next meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Nash, seconded by Councillor Weaver. Does anybody have anything? Questions for next meeting? Councillor Weaver.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like an update on the age officials. Where we're up to as far as the management side of the age officials go. And I know that the volunteers are working very well and it's done a great job. But now that there the other night at the function that I attended, people were asking, you know, what direction is council taking this in? And answer, I said, I kept saying very positive.
Thank you. Noted.
Mayor, we can do that. Obviously, if you could just, I'll talk to you after the meeting, but any specifics, but we can give an update on where the handout has gone to and where we're at and what we've got planned.
Councillor Nash.
Yeah, I'd like to get a report, please, for Montana Park, the gum trees there. I'd like a detailed report on what we're going to do about it, getting a lot more trees to put in there. The gum trees are very dangerous at the moment, and I'd just like to get a report on how bad they are and how good they are.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I will progress that and bring it forward to a future council meeting.
Thank you.
Also, could I get a report on whether we can get the flag back on the top of the pole at Gable? They've got a flag pole, but it's ready to put the new flag surrounded on it. They can't see it on the exact day. They'd love to get the flag back on the pole. The pole's still there. Thank you.
Did you get that? Yeah. Thank you. Anything else? Anything, questions for next meeting? No? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 23 is business paper items for noting. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Jones, seconded by Councillor Nash. Does anybody wish to call out any of those items for noting? Councillor Jones.
If I could call item 2, please, Mr Mayor.
Item 2, thank you. Councillor Nash.
Is that the notation where the street lighting and all that is?
Street lighting.
In Ugara on Sports Ground? Page 33.
No.
We wanted a report on how the Sports Ground lighting needs to be addressed.
Would that be in the minutes earlier, was it? Maybe, without trying to dig back.
No, it was from one of these meetings. It's on the business papers at the bottom there. The executive team are going to do a report on Sports Oval lighting, which I can find for you in here. And
Is it in the minutes, bud?
Page 33.
Minutes of previous meeting, that's where it is, yeah. 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 The gentleman has just advised me that it's something that's captured in the minutes, so I'll roll through on a report coming to council shortly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It hasn't come to this meeting, but it will come to a future meeting.
Happy with that? Yep. Does anybody wish to call out any of those items 1 to 9 in the matters for noting? No? All right. Councillor Jones has called out item 2, which is the successful funding under Regional Connectivity Program Round 2. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just thought it was worth highlighting to council in our community that council worked with Telstra last year on a submission and have been successful in receiving $1.6 million in funding to improve mobile coverage in the Mulling Creek area, which is certainly much needed and something that community had been asking for some time. Obviously, mobile coverage and internet coverage is important for our communities as they continue to grow, attract jobs, and also for the safety of our communities and for the work our emergency services do. I would urge the federal government to continue to fund programs like these that help with regional connectivity because they do make a huge difference to our community. And it's safe to say that many more areas of Cabonne do suffer from poor mobile access, and I think we should continue to be pursuing, where possible, opportunities to get some more mobile towers. But I just also want to acknowledge the work our leader of tourism and economy has done in putting forward that application and working with Telstra and the federal government to get this funding on behalf of council. I'm advised that it was actually one of the best applications they have received in some time. So thank you very much to Rebecca and to our staff. And it was great to see council working with the community and the federal government to get this money.
Yeah, thank you, well said. And yeah, concur with that. Thank you, Rebecca, for all your hard work. All right. Well, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 24 is matters of urgency. Could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Weaver, second by Councillor Oldham. Does anybody have anything of an urgent nature? Nope. I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 25 is the committee of the whole section of the meeting. Could I have somebody move that we move into the committee of the whole to discuss matters? Moved by Councillor Poole, second by Councillor Jones. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So we have item 11, called by Councillor Rawson. So Item 11 is the Integrated Planning and Reporting 2022/23. I take it Councillor Rawson, you'll move that? You'll move that?
I will move that.
Seconded by Councillor Nash. Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I wanted to start by congratulating the staff for putting together this suite of IPNR documents in a fairly short and stressful time. I commend the documents to the community for their breadth and depth and also transparency, particularly things like the long-term financial plan, which essentially provides quite an open view of our finances and how they would track into the future with a whole range of alternatives. I'd like to make a couple of minor amendments which I've discussed with the General Manager and Rebecca, particularly about the CSP. There's a couple of minor changes to be made to not the thrust of the CSP, but just some assessment measures in particularly 5.2 and 5.3. And I would just like to make an amendment to the resolution to accept the CSP or endorse the CSP with those minor changes of assessment. And really, it's just to make sure that we aren't setting ourselves up to fail, because in particular 5.3, there is how do we know we succeeded it says there by 2030 maximum temperatures remain stable or are reduced and a reduction in number of severe fire weather days. These are laudable aims, but of course they are completely out of our control. These are based on global changes and global effects. So there's, and I've already spoken to Rebecca and to the General Manager about making those minor edits. There's also similarly a minor edit in 5.2. So if the council was happy with those minor changes, that would be good.
Could you just refer to the page number so that everybody else could be on that
Okay, page number this is in the
CSP.
166 and 167.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Councillor, for raising those items as well. I would just let Council know that I agree, and with the concept of why we should relook at those measures of how we succeed. I think I informed Council that, and in compiling these documents, particularly for the CSP, the how we succeed measure is always a work in progress, and we've got to adjust those as to different data as it becomes available for Council to evaluate some of our progress with those things. And I think the points made by Councillor Rawson are very salient, that we might be setting ourselves up with a huge global impacts on Cabonne, and how much influence Cabonne as a community can do is a bit hard. But and obviously the intent by the team is, and we've gone pretty hard at it, and that's why that is to try to find those hard measures. But in doing so, we've probably picked out a global one rather than a more localised one. So I thank the councillor for raising those, and they're minor adjustments, and as he says, they're not. They don't change the intent of the document. They just refine how we're going to measure those.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that it?
No.
Well, I'll just deal with it this way, if I may. Councillor Nash, you the second on there. You okay with that minor amendment? Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, go on, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Nash. No, look, I really just wanted to make reference to the change that's been made to the delivery program at my suggestion, and I thank the General Manager and staff for incorporating my suggestion. This is on page, where are we? Go back to page 23. So right back. So where it says their original draft and then the change. So it's the insertion of 1.3.2.1c, develop and implement the adopted and prioritised actions from Council's Climate Change Adaptation Plan, which is effectively to insert a climate change adaptation plan into our processes to accompany the emissions reduction plan and renewable energy action plan, which are already underway, which I wholeheartedly endorse. I'd just like to say there are reasons why I believe that an adaptation plan is required. It's because climate change is something that's it's like a slow tsunami being washed over the top of us at the moment, and it's something that all councils need to address. The Local Government New South Wales conference that we attended earlier on this year had a whole section in their program about climate change and its impact on local government. It was well received. Councils at the time were very concerned about, at that time, the Lismore floods were occurring, and there was a realisation that some planning decisions that had been made in those areas to allow for building in areas which were not prior to that flood prone, but are now flood prone, or now certainly had floods. In that particular case, the 1974 flood was a record by a long way, and it assumes that anything built above the 1974 flood level would be safe. Well, in that flood, the new flood record was 2 metres higher than that. 2 metres higher than the previous record, which was considered to be almost unattainable again. That's climate change writ large. Similarly, the fires that devastated areas up and down New South Wales, sure, we've had fires, but nothing to that extent. And certainly, from my reading of the scientific literature on it, that was an order of magnitude larger and more intense than anything that's ever been experienced in the past. So we're walking into a very, very different environment, very, very different world over the next few decades. And we must, as a council, be fully aware of those impacts, fully aware of those changes. And as we're dealing here with 10-year plans, we should be aware that at the end of that 10 years' time, it'll be a very, very different world. To give you, I'll finish off shortly, just to give you a sense of what this means. When most of us were born, the global average temperature was about 14 degrees. It's averaging everywhere in the world, every weather record, every weather station, everywhere in the world. The average over everything, annual average, was about 14 degrees. In my lifetime, it's risen to over 15 degrees. And the projections are that within the next 10 to 20 years, that'll be closer to 16 degrees. By the end of the century, it could be anywhere up to 19 or 20 degrees. As an annual average globally, that's stupendous, that's outrageous. And we, as all government institutions, have to be fully aware and cognizant of the impact that change is going to have on our communities. So the best way we can prepare our communities is to look at the models, look at what they're saying, and trying to inject those numbers into every process that we do and every part of our community that might be affected. I can see in many of the plans that we already have, and also many of the actions that are sitting in these documents, these IPNR documents, I can see the elements of that preparation already there. So, for example, Matt's insistence upon quality rather than quantity in terms of the work that we do on our roads and our bridges and our culverts. That is an element of that sort of strategy. And I commend him for that, for doing that. So there are many aspects of our society, many aspects of our community that are going to be impacted, and I'm very, very happy to see that this adaptation plan is being accepted. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to discuss anything on item 11? Councillor Nash.
Yeah, I'd just like to address the Tiffany Bracey from Cargo. Did everybody ever return her emails and talk to her about the specifications that she had on the road?
Council, that'll be the process after this council accepts the submission formally. The people who have submitted their suggestions or submissions will be contacted and will respond to their specific concerns in line with the table and those things. Yep.
Any further discussion on item 11? Nope. All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Now, I'll draw your attention to the supplementary item, item 26, which is the Central New South Wales Business HQ item. Everybody with me? Yep. All right, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Poole, second by Councillor Oldham. Any discussion on that at all? All pretty straightforward. Everybody happy? All right, I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. All right, we'll now move from our ordinary meeting into our confidential part of the meeting.